Good morning. Thank you for joining us today for Inspire the Spirit for our weekly devotional. So it's been an eventful couple of weeks. Can we all say that? Last 10 days, 2 weeks, whatever it's been very eventful. A lot going on in the family, a lot going on in the office. Had a conference yesterday. It's been fast and furious. Got a lot of to-do lists, a lot of things to accomplish. But one thing we're always taught in today's message is press on. We're always going to press on and move forward whatever we're facing. So have you ever played with a deck of cards? Anybody like card games? Well, card games can be fun, right? But we got to be honest, they require some degree of luck. And you can't control luck. But to be really good at a card game, to be consistently good, you got to put in time, you got to put the practice in, and you got to put in the effort to learn and understand whatever game it is you're playing. So where do you dedicate your time? We all have a certain amount of time. Billy Graham has a great sermon. He always talks about the 168. What do you do with your 168? Now, if you're trying to figure out what 168 is, that's the number of hours you have in a week. 24 times 7. 24 hours, 7 days a week. You get 168 hours every week. And he asked the question, what do you do with your 168? Look at where you spend the most time. He made an illustration. Someone said, I went to church this week for an hour. And they say it almost like they're checking off a box, right? Like going to church is part of a to-do list, where actually it's meant to worship and praise and to just be in the house of God and His presence. But so many times we check it off like, yeah, I accomplished that, done for the week. Well, 1 hour a week, 1 divided by 168 is 0.006. It is 0.6%. So if you're saying, man, I went to church this week, congratulations. You spent 0.6% of your time worshiping. Now, list your priorities in life. We all have priorities, right? People will come up and say, what's your priorities? And you may do it right now. Take your little cheat sheet, flip it over. What's your priorities in life? What's the most important thing in your life? Now, as followers of Christ, a lot of us are going to put our faith, right? Faith. My faith in God, my faith, my following in Jesus' footsteps. Faith is number one. What's your number two? There's a lot of choices. You may have 3, 4, 5. Put your priorities down and just list them. You're going to have your faith in there. You may have your career, your job. You might have some hobbies in there. You might be a golfer. You might be a runner. God bless you if you are. Maybe it's serving others, volunteering. Maybe your kids are in there. Maybe you got sleep on there. But after all, you're sleeping quite a bit during the week, hopefully. And your family. Where's your family at? Where'd you rank your family? Is it in the top 10, hopefully? Top 5? 3? 2? Number 2? Well, here's the thing to do. Now, go through each of those things and kind of estimate how much time a week do you spend in each of those endeavors. How many hours? A lot of us might have put faith 1. How many hours did you spend on your faith this week? You went to church, prayer time, read your Bible, devotional. How many times did you spend with your family? How many times did you spend on your job? How many hours did you spend? And list all these hours down till you come up with 168. And then sort your list high to low by the number of hours you dedicate to each of those endeavors, and that will be the priorities of your actual life, where you devote the most time to. And for each of us, it's different. It was sad. I read a survey the other day. It was called Choosing Money or Time. And the survey asked a simple question. You could have 1 extra hour a day to spend at home with your family. A whole hour a day. How many people like to have an extra hour to be home and to be with their family? A lot of people like that. Or you can have a $10,000 a year pay raise. Which one are you choosing? An extra hour at home with the family, or are you going to take the 10 grand? Look at your priority list. What's your priority list say is more important to you? Sadly, 83% of Americans took the money and ran. 83% of Americans said they'd rather have $10,000 more a year than spend an extra hour with their family. And I thought about that, and I had to do the math, because people will say there's no price you can put on my family, my kids, my time home, no price, right? Well, your price is $27.40 an hour. That's the breaking point that 83% of Americans says, man, I love my family, but at $27.40 an hour for 365 days, that's 10 grand. I'm taking the money and run. But I looked at the question a different way. What if the question said, you can have $10,000 a year, or you can have 1 extra hour a day to spend in prayer with God, to be in the presence of God, to pray, to be in church, to have your devotional, to dedicate your quiet time? Which one would you take then? Would you take the 10 grand, or would you take the extra hour prayer time? And you can look at your priorities, tell you what you should pick, but what do we pick? My friend Ed Beatty put on Facebook this week, he said, man, what do we do this weekend? We set our clocks, sprung forward, right? So we all lost an hour. He said, man, everybody's complaining about losing an hour's sleep. I haven't had one friend post, I lost an hour of prayer time this Sunday. Not one person said that. Matthew 6:33 says, but seek first his kingdom and his righteousness, and all these things will be given to you as well. And what that verse really tells us is when we put our faith, when we put God first in our life, it's not saying the other things are not important, but it's saying seek him first and everything else falls into place. Everything else kind of takes care of itself when we get our priorities in the right order and we press on, always seeking God. Last week we talked about the roar of the lion in the Ray Lewis speech, the former Hall of Fame linebacker for the Baltimore Ravens. And you may or may not like Ray Lewis. He's had a very troubled past. He's now, trying to do the right thing, and he's changed his life from when he was younger. But he once asked his mom for a deck of these cards. Ray grew up poor in a rough neighborhood. He didn't have much. He had a single mom. And he said, Mom, I want a deck of cards. And Ray's mama said, no, there will be no gambling in my house. She said, no to the cards. Well, the truth was, Ray did not want the cards to gamble. He had a different idea, and I've shared this story in the past. You see, Ray's mom suffered from domestic abuse. And Ray's mom had, whenever she had boyfriends that would come to the house, it often got rough. And as a little boy, Ray would run in there during the fight and the argument and try to break it up. But being a young man, often the bigger man would hit Ray, shove Ray off to the side. Ray's mom would tell him, get back in your bedroom, don't get involved. And it was a vicious cycle. And Ray moved to the garage. And that's where he slept and set up his bedroom. And he got that deck of cards. And with that deck of cards, he started the old training technique. We used to do it in college all the time. You sit down with a deck of cards, 9 push-ups, go. 15-second rest. 4 push-ups, go. 15-second rest. 9 more push-ups, go. And you would flip these cards, and you would do push-ups, and you'd exhaust the deck of cards. Then you'd flip them over and do sit-ups or some other exercise. And Ray started doing this in his garage. Every night he would flip those cards and start doing his push-ups. And what happened? In a dark garage every night, in the presence with domestic violence hanging over his head, Ray got bigger. Ray got stronger. Ray started maturing. till one night he heard the violence, and Ray went into the house and put a whooping on some boy, put a beat down on this guy and threw him out in the street. And the word quickly spread throughout the neighborhood, don't mess with Ray's mom. Ray is a full-grown man now. Ray went on to be a great linebacker, University of Miami, 2-time Super Bowl champion. But he always remembered the cards. There are 380 push-ups in this deck of cards. There are 380 sit-ups in this deck of cards. And he'd do them every night, religiously, never missed a night. And he took that old training technique and he pressed on. And he learned from it, and he said he refused to be outworked by anybody. He wasn't the biggest, the fastest, or the strongest, but no one would outwork him. He was always at the training facility before 5 a.m. He said if he found out somebody set their clock at 5, he set his at 4:30. If they showed up at 4:30, he showed up at 4. He would never be the second person to show up at that training facility. Even the coaches said he beat us there, made us look bad. He was in there lifting every single day. Now, Ray wasn't perfect. He had some rough periods of life, and most of us know those stories. We won't get into them today. But he made a statement. He said, you never lose until you quit. You never lose in life until you quit. And he made a commitment to never give up, to press on. Where in your life do you need to press on today? We're all facing something, a trial, a test. We're facing something, and we need to press on. Here every week, I make a commitment to get up here and share a message. How many weeks are in a year? 52? It wasn't a trick question. I know I saw a lot of people kind of Googling it. 52. How many cards are in this deck? 52. What number did Ray Lewis wear? 52. He wore it because it reminded him of the deck of cards. And he also said every time he put that jersey on, every week, he looked in the mirror before he took the field and said, I got to outwork somebody 52 weeks out of the year. I have to press on. Because as soon as somebody outworks me, I fall. They take my position. I've got to press on. And 52 became his commitment. Proverbs 14:23 says, all hard work brings a profit, but mere talk leads only to poverty. So what can you do with your 52 cards, your 52 weeks in a year? What can you commit to 52 times? Maybe it's reading the Bible. Maybe you could pray for someone 52 times, even if it's weekly. Maybe once a week you could commit to sending a text to somebody going through a difficult time and just a brief word of encouragement. Whatever God puts on your heart, commit to something and find out and build that habit and press on. You see, most of the world doesn't even have a Bible, can't even have access or gets to read the Bible. So God gave the world you to read. The world reads you every single day. They're a self-proclaimed Christian. How do they act? How do they talk? What things do they do? How do they respond to crisis and emergencies and situations? They read you, because that's all they have. And we're to represent the kingdom of Christ and how we respond to everything. Now, some people say, I'm too busy to pray. I forgot to pray yesterday. I got too busy. Too busy to pray. I like the list. Here's the top reasons you're too busy to pray. You wake up feeling rested, then realize your alarm should have went off an hour ago. None of the clean clothes you were able to find match. So what do? You dig through your cleanest, dirtiest pile of clothes. Your teenager shaved the left side of his head. Your bills are due and your toddler hid the checkbook. Strange fluids dripping from your car. You accidentally delete your quarterly report 10 minutes before meeting with the boss. Your toilet's overflowing, but at least you found the checkbook. Reasons we're too busy to pray. And a pastor read that and he said, these are the exact reasons you need to find time to pray. So many times in life we allow the crisis, the inconvenience, to distract us from what? Our priorities, from pressing on. And instead of taking the problem to the Lord in prayer, we try to solve it ourselves. And we forget to press on in our commitment. You see, a trial will produce a test. Whatever you're going through in life is a trial, and it will produce a test. But you can't spell testimony without T-E-S-T. So if you're going through a test in life, you're facing something, you're building a testimony. What's your testimony going to be? When a lot of people talk about their testimony, they think, well, I was 13 years old and I was Falls Creek Baptist Church and they were singing a song and I walked down in front of the congregation and, that's a testimony. But you have a more important testimony than the moment you accepted Christ. That you could, we all have that moment we know. This is the point in time when I accepted Jesus. And I can recite that, remember it, it's vivid. But we have another testimony we often forget. Your everyday current event testimony. The things you push through every day. The trials you face. You get a bad health report. You're building a testimony. You have a story to share with the world. You have a job loss. You have a family setback or a family issue pop up. Something comes up in your life. A friend abandons you, turns their back on you. A child's fighting addiction, and you're battling it. You're in the trial. You're in the test, building your testimony. And that testimony needs to be shared with the world. Here's how I manage it. Here's how I get through it. Here's where I rely on the strength of God. Here's how I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me. Where will your story take you? And who needs to hear it? Someone today needs to hear your testimony, what you've been through lately. And God will put people in your path who experience the same thing you've experienced, and He's prepared you to share and point them towards the cross. David Livingstone said, I will go anywhere as long as it is forward. We must press on and we must never retreat. I love what Paul wrote in Philippians 3, chapter 3, verses 13 and 14. Brothers and sisters, I always like saying that. Brothers and sisters, I do not consider myself yet to have taken hold of it. But one thing I do, forgetting what is behind and straining towards what is ahead. I press on toward the goal to win the prize for which God has called me heavenward in Christ Jesus. And that's such a powerful verse to break it down. Other than the cool opening, brothers and sisters, he humbles himself by saying, I don't consider myself yet to have taken hold. I haven't achieved it yet. I'm not where I need to be. I'm not perfect. But I'm going to do one thing. If there's only one thing I can do to press, I'm going to forget what's behind me, put my past behind me, and I'm going to focus on what's forward. We all hear the windshield's larger than the rearview mirror for a reason. I'm pressing forward. I press on toward the goal that God's called me heavenward in Christ Jesus. That's my priority. That has to come first, and everything else will fall in place. So how do you push yourself to be your absolute best? You set goals. You goal setters, where you have that list of goals in your private journal, or whether you set them at the first year, or whether they're taped on the refrigerator or taped on the mirror in the morning, where you spray paint them on your wall like Dwayne did as a kid when I gave him a go, and he took a can of spray paint and sprayed and painted above his bed. And I heard from his mom and dad about it. I didn't give him a spray can of paint. I just gave him a go. But whatever you do to remind yourself, we always talk about SMART goals. Have you heard of SMART goals? S-M-A-R-T. A SMART goal is specific, It's measurable, it's achievable, it's relevant, and it's time-bound. It's timely. And whatever that goal is, maybe it's working out or maybe it's a Bible plan. It's specific. I'm going to work out 3 days a week for an hour at a time. That's specific. You got specific numbers, 3 times a week, 1 hour a day, whatever it is. I'm going to read 1 Bible verse a day. Or I'm going to flip this deck of cards, and today I'm reading 9 Bible verses. Tomorrow I'm reading 4. And I'm reading a 9 again. Whatever it is, I'm going to be specific, and I can measure it because I got a number. It's achievable. It's not, crazy. It's not, I'm going to make $1 billion tomorrow. It's an achievable goal. It's relevant. It's important to me. It's my health. It's my relationship with God, my family, whatever it is. And it's time bound. I'm going to do it daily. I'm going to do it weekly, whatever it may be. How do you push yourself and press on to be your absolute best every day? We must build successful habits in our life, and the first mistake doesn't beat you. So many times we look at goals and objectives as a all or nothing finish line, and as soon as I stumble and fall, I'm going to go to church every Sunday, I miss a week. I'm going to eat healthier, I have a bad meal. I'm going to go to the gym every day, I miss a day. And we say, well, it's over. We give up, start again January. Just start over. First mistake doesn't beat you. It's the second and third time that a bad habit starts to form. And sin's the same way. Every bad habit in your life takes time to develop. So how bad do you want it? Do you carry your own weight? You ever heard the phrase, do you carry your own weight? Hear it in the military, hear it in business and offices. Are you carrying your weight? Are you doing your fair share of the work? Do you rely on someone else on a team? Do you rely on someone else to make the big play? In a business, do you rely on somebody else to make the big sale? Do you rely on somebody else to make the decision? What kind of teammate are you? What would your teammates say about you? Do they carry their own weight? Do you go above and beyond? I told a story once about the Canadian banker. In 1993, a Canadian banker. He graduates from finance school and he gets a job at a bank. He really doesn't know what to do. So he goes to his office, and he's organizing his office. He's got a box of paper clips that's got 120 paper clips in it. And he makes a decision on spur of the moment. Every morning, he's going to take a paper clip, he's going to make a phone call, a business call, a sales call, and he's going to put the paper clip in the glass. And he's going to go through until he has removed every paper clip. He's going to make 120 phone calls a day, every morning. And he starts doing this every single day. He starts his day, walks in the office, closes the door, mutes the phone, secretary, don't bother me, and he makes 120 phone calls every morning. Spends several hours, and he moves that paper clip from glass to the next container and back and forth each day. And he quickly became the highest selling, most productive banker in the bank. And he got promoted, vice president, got promoted to have an entire region. Soon he was the head president over the entire province that he resided in Canada, because he developed a little habit with a box of paper clips. And he continued to do it. He did it every day of his career. And whether you're moving paper clips or you're flipping cards, whatever you do to motivate you and to remind you every day to press on, press on. Make that commitment to Christ. Philippians 1:6, being confident of this, that he who began a good work in you will carry it on to completion until the day of Christ Jesus. God will give you lots of second chances. It'll also give you little clues. He may say, go get you a deck of cards today. Go get you a box of paper clips. Make you a SMART goal. Whatever you do, just don't give up. Whatever you do, whatever you're going through, press on. So to wrap up today, on October 29th, 1941, Winston Churchill gave a speech to the Harrow School in London, which was a school he had graduated to, and it was considered one of the greatest speeches of all time. Well, on October 29th of 41, what do we know is happening in Great Britain? Germany's invaded, World War II is on, Pearl Harbor hasn't happened yet, so America's not totally engaged, and Britain's on the threshold of falling. One of the greatest empires and countries at the history of the world at that point is on the verge of collapsing from the nonstop bombing and attacks from the German army. And he's given a speech at a graduation ceremony. And some people say it's one of the greatest speeches ever given. And he got up to the podium and he made the speech and he uttered 7 words. Never give up. Never, 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 never. And he got a standing ovation. And I always heard that story and thought, I can write a 7-word speech. How much time did you put into that one, buddy? And yet, a historian followed that graduating class throughout their life and wrote a whole book about the graduating class of 1941. And they were documented as the greatest, most successful graduating class in the history of Great Britain. Every young man, every person in that graduating class went on to become a general, a politician, a business leader. It was just incredible the amount of success. And this historian followed them through their lives and would do constant interviews and follow-ups, and they always went back to one thing. What was your key driving motivation factor for all of your success? And they said, I'll never forget the speech. Never give up. Press on. They never forgot it. And they took it with them their entire life. In a moment when their country was on the verge of collapse, all they had to be told was never give up, to press on. So today, as we wrap here, I encourage you, press on. Press on through the medical report. Press on when your friends have abandoned you. Press on when you suffer a personal loss. Press on when you have a business setback. Press on when you get that unexpected bill. Whatever you're facing today, just press on. Just do what Paul says in Philippians 3. Press on towards the goal of Jesus Christ. That's our highest priority. Everything else will fall into place. Always seek God first. Seek His righteousness and His kingdom above all things. Everything else will be given to you, but press on. Have a wonderful week. We look forward to joining us again next week. Be blessed. Thank you for joining us.